Ralph, and you were talking about all the really cool things that are happening with technology and what your office is going to be able to do with that. But I know that you still have certain congressional publications like committee reports and hearing records that use the same formatting for the last 100 years. And they can be kind of hard to read, really small print. I understand even the pages are different formatting as well. I assume we're still going to be using printed materials. What are you going to do about getting us up to speed on formatting?
So this is, you'll excuse me while I get out my soapbox. So I really appreciate the question. So I always use the committee report as an example. I either wrote myself or were responsible for the production of probably about 3,000 of them over my House career. The printed format of that document is designed for the offset printing environment. And each page is the size that it is because we can fit 64 of those along an aluminum plate that fits on an offset printing drum. GPO, as I mentioned, has switched over largely to digital inkjet printing technology. That means it doesn't matter to us how many pages we can fit on a drum. We can make that page size whatever we want, from letter size to the same size it is now. So we have a new kind of printing technology. We are updating that software stack that I talked about earlier, and Congress seems to be willing to re-examine the ways it's traditionally done things. So this presents us with an opportunity, and I think one that folks seem to be interested in taking advantage of. So we've started doing the work of saying, if we were building a committee report from scratch, what would that look like? And I think folks are indicating to us that something that is centered around a letter-sized piece of paper makes a lot of sense. Something that can support color, that uses larger typefaces, that uses more consistent header styles, all of those kinds of things. And we're at the front end of that project now, but I really hope before the end of the year we'll have an idea what that's going to look like, and then we can start building the tools to help folks easily author those documents. It'll be a little harder for us to get to bill text, just because over the last almost 250 years, we've developed some bad habits in how we author legislation. So that's going to take us a little bit more work. But I think committee reports are a great place for us to start. Hearings are basically the same format. And we can use those as jumping off points for a lot of other legislative documents to both make them better in print and to make them more accessible digitally so that it doesn't matter whether you're looking at it on paper, on a tablet, or on a computer.
As you're making this switch over to more and more technology and the benefits that we see with it, how do you see these investments in the newer technologies having hopefully a positive fiscal impact in the future? It'll be sustainable. Have you begun to see any cost savings improvements that are already taking place?
Absolutely, and I can get you more definitive numbers on what that looks like. But let me give you an example of the shift from offset printing to digital inkjet. So the way the traditional offset printing works, there is a long runway to get that machine set up and operating at peak efficiency. So let's take the Congressional record as a good example. 15, 20 years ago, the circulation of that document was 25,000 copies a day. So when we set that up on these big industrial web offset presses, having essentially 2,000 or 3,000 copies that we throw away every day because that's what it took to get the machine set up and running fine was an okay investment. That first copy always cost you basically tens of thousands of dollars, but each additional copy was just pennies. So you dollar cost averaged that over the entire print run. The problem is that that same congressional record that 15 years ago was 25,000 copies a day, today it's less than 1,500 printed copies. So digital inkjet, we've got almost no waste. There's almost no environmental impact, and the cost per page is both lower than that initial cost for the offset, and more consistent over the entire print run. So we can show you what that math looks like, but that's just one example of how that technology is helping.
And Madam Chairman, could I ask one more question? Thanks. You talked about being able to close some offices for various reasons. When you have this underutilized space, and as you continue to streamline, I guess, the GPO's presence, what kind of model are you looking at there? What are some of the measures that you're using in order to accomplish that?
So, as we've changed how we work, we've changed our space utilization as well. So, for instance, one thing that we're looking at closely is, can we bring in other partners into our facility? And a really good example of this was supporting Congress and the Center for Legislative Archives through the archives, the National Archives. So Congress was looking for a good place to store its records. Because we had surplus space, we were able to provide a good place for that. So I believe we've got about between 50 and 60,000 square feet that we've dedicated to that purpose, both a phase one that's operational today and a phase two that we're looking to build out over the next few years. So we're looking for partners to take up some of that space. But to be honest, at the moment, while we're talking with all of our business units about what their space needs look like, we don't have that much vacant space at the moment. We may undergo some consolidation so that as we've got more folks who are only coming to the DC headquarters a couple days a week or whatever, we can rearrange space. Instead of having large cube farms, we can have more meeting space, more collaboration space, so that folks can really use those facilities on the days they're in the office. I think the myth of us having, huge amounts of space just sitting fallow isn't the reality. And the other thing to keep in mind is often we need pretty substantial swing space as we change technologies. So passports are a really good example. Right now, as of April, we have shifted over to what is now the current generation, the next generation passport. As we look to build out the manufacturing facility for the passport that we're going to have in another 10 years, we need space to start building that facility now so that it's ready when we do the changeover.
Thank you.